Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello once again, everybody. Welcome back to the Simulationist podcast. This is the 163rd iteration of the show, recorded on the 18th of October, 2015. My name is Josh Trelevin, and with me, as always, is my illustrious co-host, Ryan
Scaremaster Ryan Kirkby.
Ryan, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing pretty good. Busy, but pretty good.
Busy? Ooh, yeah.
Well, no, the TV series has started up again with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and The Flash. Combined with the other stuff I've got, I only have 3 open nights a week. Because, the Tuesdays of my S.H.I.E.L.D., my TV stuff.
Okay, yeah.
And then Fridays, I do the library thing with my wife and daughter.
Yeah.
We play at the park after work, go to the library, rent a movie, come home and watch a movie while eating pizza.
Yeah, the whole family?
Yeah. Well, as long as my daughter's attention will stay in there, yes.
Yeah.
Then we have the Saturday where it's, oh my goodness, I watch MeTV's Super Sci-Fi Saturday Nights.
Oh, yes, of course.
Provided I can get off work early enough, sort of thing, to make everything. Otherwise, it's the old classic black and white Superman, Adam West Batman, Wonder Woman, Star Trek, Svengoolie hosting a classic horror movie, and then by then it's midnight and I can't even watch, Lost in Space.
You are one busy TV watching guy.
Oh, that's the thing. There's a lot of good TV history to get caught up on. I mean,
true.
I may seem old based on how many old programs I know, but I'm actually not that old. I'm not secretly immortal and regenerating every couple decades.
It's like kind of getting a postgraduate degree in TV watching.
I am trying to be actively watching it and all that.
Yeah.
Double checking all this stuff. Apparently, there's a lot of time travel in the original Star Trek. And the one I was watching this last week, they found a way where, the equation works. We can now go back to any point in, a planet's history. Maybe we'll do that one day, but for now, 3-day weekend. That's basically how it wound up ending. They wound up, in order to avoid being crushed by a planet when the planet collapsed, because apparently planets have an end lifespan too, those, crumble. They got a weird, crazy thing. It changes the molecular nature of water, so they wind up all getting drunk by touching each other, through this infection.
Oh, yes, I remember that one.
Yes, and they wound up having to restart the engines dead cold through an experimental formula that is maybe a 1 in 10,000 chance at best. And they get it right, because Spock's helping them out. That always guarantees, success. And they get so much power, they go back in time 3 days. So we got 3 days to live again. Well, not those 3 days. But it's basically, I was we got 72 hours before we get caught up with where we were in the timeline. So it's 3-day weekend.
Nice, very good.
Yeah, which everyone probably needed after that horrible experience. But it's now we have the ability to go back in time to any point in any planet's history. And it's they never followed up on that in any of the future real series. I mean, there was that Star Trek Enterprise where you have your chronal Cold War. But it's not now we can go back in time. And they did feature that. One of the season's final episodes of the season, they had them back in Earth's history, and they wind up doing some stuff. Mm-hmm. And that was supposed to be a nice segue to, you guys aren't going to keep, Star Trek going? Well, here's a connected series we can effectively launch out through this one and make it, a spin-off.
Mm.
It never got picked up, and Star Trek got one more season, and then nothing else, apparently. But they featured on that where it's yes, now we can go back in time and look at our own history or any planet's history, and then they never do anything like that. It's apparently they forgot to record that down, and nobody ever bothered to figure out how to go back in time, because they did that in the fourth movie, but they had to slingshot around the sun. It's like, well, why don't you just use the same formula? It's just like, oh, yeah. I guess that's a non-canon episode then.
Yeah, well, I mean...
But that's the stuff I get when I rewatch, and I'm actively watching it now. As a kid, I just accepted it. Yeah, okay. Back in time, 3 days. Woo, okay, woo.
Yeah.
Sulu with his shirt off, attacking people with his rapier. That was his big scene. You always wind up seeing him, like, shirtless and glistening in the body oil stuff. And, yeah, that was the episode where it happens. He's just attacking people with a rapier, because that's what he wants to do. Yeah. That's what Sulu does when he's drunk. Woo. Effectively.
Yeah, it's hard to make a series that actually like makes sense of like a TV series. Movies are a little bit easier because they're self-contained, but it's a TV series where it's you come back week after week and have time travel involved. Cause it's
I guess
not
they
all
are coming
at the
back
same
week
time.
after week then.
Yeah, maybe.
Within the same episode.
Yeah.
But it's as I always said, if Dan Aykroyd was really big on wanting to get a lot of stories out for stuff like Ghostbusters, he would have done it much better as a TV series rather than just a couple movies. Because even if they were half hour long, 13 episodes per season, that still winds up being 6.5 hours of television watching, which is more than the length of both of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
So you can tell more stories and longer stories through the use of less serialized, and discrete episodes.
Yeah, sure.
Not that it was really possible in 1984, but if you wanted to do that now, it is perfectly set up. I mean, the franchise is there, the talent's there, the tools are there. Bing, bang, boom, man. That said, I still hold out decent hopes for the all-female remake.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
It's not a remake or something. I have to figure out how it goes, but I hold out decent hopes.
Yeah, me too. I think that'll be good. I think I really do.
And even if that fails, I'll still say the spiritual sequel went to the Evolution movie with David Duchovny and Sean William Scott.
Sure. Yeah.
Because it was very much in the same vein.
Yeah.
And it was an Ivan Reitman film, too, so, I mean, it works that parallel.
Okay. So it is, today is the 18th. So
it is election eve for Canada.
Tomorrow we're having a big election, so this isn't exactly a political podcast, but we can't help but it's in our minds and in our lives.
I find it's interesting to see what the various parties are saying along unified themes.
Yeah?
For instance, every party except the Conservatives, I believe it is, even the Parti Québécois, from what I've been told, through translations, I don't know French, I'm sorry. I will never be Prime Minister. But they've all promised at least some degree of electoral reform.
Okay.
I believe Mulcair's the leading on that one, where he wants to try and get rid of the once past the post system. So that if 5% of the Canadians vote for the Green Party, 5% of the seats will go to the Green Party. And I think that's good because it gets rid of the strategic voting and like the concept, like right now in most ridings, if you were to vote for the Green Party, it's effectively a wasted vote. They're not getting enough votes in enough ridings to make that vote worthwhile. And so, if you calculate that up, that's a few hundred votes here, a few hundred votes there. Several thousand Canadians, on the island here alone, are getting their votes wasted because they just can't overcome that first past the post system. So I'm digging that concept. I don't think we should do what Greece is doing, whereby there's like anybody can be a party, because they wound up with 5 to 10% neo-Nazi party. In there,
there's freedom of speech and all that. I guess if you have those views, it's better to have them out in the open.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I just prefer if you could have some sort of system whereby the only parties that could be voted would be the ones that would be that have like a mandate that doesn't go against the Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
But
that right now could be considered very politically conscientious because.
Contentious.
Conscientious, because right now, as well as contentious, because the big thing that apparently the Conservative Party is getting votes on would be on the niqab issue, the face covering for 2% of Muslim women, and whether or not they should be able to wear it.
Yeah, 2% of Muslim women, of whom in Canada there probably are like a few thousand, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not a huge
thing.
And
then, 2% of that, so there's probably
it's not a lot of issue, and he's trying to make it a huge political issue. And so it's actually going against your freedom to effectively wear what you want.
Yep.
So I guess it could be considered conscientious of that, because if it was to go, as I say, where you'd have to like have a party view that doesn't go against the Rights and Freedoms Charter, then the Conservatives couldn't be voted for. The party that currently has the majority in the Parliament couldn't be voted for because of their issue on that.
Well, and the other thing is someone has to make that decision, so I don't know if it would be the
Governor General doing these days?
Make
come
him
on,
do it.
Dude can pick up a couple extra chores.
I don't know if... he's not supposed to take that much political power, actually.
Well, they can, he's the one who'll say the official thing. Anyone wants to, argue it, we'll take it to the court system.
Yeah.
But he'll be the guy that reads off that nice little scroll saying the parties you can vote for.
They would have to have like a little office of some kind that could investigate whether, and that just seems like I don't like that. But I don't have a lot of libertarian positions, but that's one of them, I suppose.
My big fear on getting rid of the ones past the post is the crazies forming some sort of weird party thing going on there, whereby you get like a 2 to 5% craziness in the party. The Parliament's crazy enough as it is. We don't need focused crazy. We're doing just fine with our generalized party-based crazy right now.
Yeah, well, now you see, if we should get into this, but maybe it's the case, though, that we have this crazy anyways, whether we like it or not, and it's better to have it at least have a voice rather than force them, somewhere like underground where they have to make like a secret militia or something like that. I don't know.
If they go underground, then we'll just thump on the ground until everything collapses on top of them. They're buried in. I'm happy with that.
Well, I'm not, because I don't think that really works. I mean, look at what we've done with the marijuana and other drugs,
which is actually another thing that almost all parties have agreed to, some level of decriminalization or legalization of marijuana.
Yeah.
The floor leader on that one would be Mr. Justin Trudeau, who is straight out saying legalize it.
I think he said something. I mean, the
that's what he said here in BC.
There is a marijuana party, although I think some of them have switched over to Greens or Liberals.
Don't confuse the Green Party with the BC Green sort of party, sort of thing. They're different, But even they have said, like this is spending a lot of resources we don't need to be spending resources on. Decriminalize.
Yeah.
So I gotta say that's going to be some interesting results for anything except conservatives.
I was going to say, probably if our listeners, whoever's listening to this, if you're Canadian, I know we have listeners all over the world, one or two in each country, kind of.
We're very well dispersed globally. Yes,
I wouldn't say every. No. Anyways, it doesn't matter.
Only the ones that matter, such as the one that you're listening into right now. Yeah.
I was just going to say, though, our listeners, they probably already know, because they might be listening tomorrow or the next day, so they probably already know what happened in the election. And this
if you know, send an email back to tonight and let us know. I don't want to have to wait till the end until tomorrow night.
Via the Star Trek time machine.
Apparently, all you need to do is start up some warp engines cold, and there's a 1 in 10,000 chance you'll get yourself a 3-day weekend out of it. We both win. Just send us the knowledge when you get back in time.
Yeah,
that's all we ask. That's all we ask. But yeah, so what have you been up to this week, Josh?
Let's talk about that.
Non-politics aside.
About gaming and having fun, and not too much as far as games go. I played a little bit of Minecraft. I breeded some horses with some donkeys, which makes mules, and so I have a whole bunch of mules now because I have this huge. I've been talking about my horse.
No, the last couple of weeks he's given little,
with all the different
mega farm
of horses, tons of horses. So now I have added to that. I have mules, in their own special area.
Hooray!
Yep. And I guess I did a little bit of mining, and I played Don't Starve. That's another game. It's called Don't Starve. I've talked about it before.
The objective is to not starve.
Yeah, and my character got killed by a tentacle that popped out of the swamp, bog, or whatever. So is there a reason for why tentacles exist in the bog, or is it just a generic, a geography-based monster? They never really explain it, no. It's just, it's a video game, so it's they kind of bubble. Same reason they gave a chainsaw to a space marine on Mars in the first Doom? Yeah. It's fun. Yeah, I think it's that, basically. Here you go, soldier, here's your chainsaw, Semper Fi. The world of Don't Starve has a lot of interesting monsters. They have fishmen also in the swamps. They
Can you
have,
cook and eat 'em?
fishmen. You can, when they die, they drop fish and frog legs.
Oh.
There's also frogs in the game.
Okay.
And the frogs, like, they lash their tongues out at you, and then they steal items from your inventory, like...
Ooh, I hate those sorts of creatures.
Yeah, it's really annoying. It's just sort of at random. So usually it's just
I'm
twigs
rather
or whatever.
glad they don't have a monster like that one in Minecraft.
Yeah.
That could get really annoying.
Inventory stealer, yeah. So they have lots of different monsters in that game. It's very creative. It's very sort of artistic. They like flashy. Well, not is that the word? Flashy. They're artistic monsters. They look cool, like very Halloween-y, I guess, a little bit.
Real Halloween-y, not like people dressed up.
Right. No. Yeah. Like, well, what's the Nightmare Before Christmas?
Ah, yes.
Not Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare Before Christmas. That kind of aesthetic. Only not claymation,
Burton-esque?
but just it's actually looks kind of hand drawn. But yeah, it's sort of that style.
So it is Burton-esque then.
Yes.
I believe that is the technical term for that style.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, sure.
Most people understand it when you say it.
So yeah, I played that game a little bit. Got killed. And I had fun. Yeah.
So if the fishman drop fish and frogs' legs when they die, what do you drop when you die?
Well, all of your inventory.
Ooh.
And I think
so you're effectively a boss monster for everyone. You drop the fat loots.
Yeah, you do. If you're carrying, you can stuff like gold and stones. It's interesting though. This Don't Starve game, a lot of the stuff that you're collecting is like twigs, rocks, like just the gold is sort of nuggets, and what else? Like you pick up. I guess you can pick up meat and stuff. So it all feels very low stakes, low level. The stuff that you drop, it looks like it's a bunch of junk. But of course, in the course of playing the game, this stuff can be very useful.
High utility, low, flair.
Yeah, it doesn't look like awesome stuff like World of Warcraft dropping like
Look at the size of these
armor and shoulder pads and yeah.
I've got a sword that separates out into 3 parts as I attack with it. It's so awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean the game. I think you can get things like gems and stuff. So there's some kind of serious pleasure available.
Factor.
Yeah. And there is a multiplayer version of the game as well. I think it's supposed to be cooperative. I'm not sure if you can kill
from
other
what
players.
I've been told of most survival games, cooperative is laughed at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's more about... I don't know if there's like a
killing and eating everybody else sort of thing, yeah.
You don't get that...
you, I got a stick.
You don't get that much meat off a human, I don't think.
It doesn't matter. Any of them is good enough.
But yeah, you get all their stuff when they die.
Oh, look at all these sticks. I'm rolling in twigs, baby. I'm gangsta.
Twigs and grass tufts.
Ooh.
And
for the ladies.
And this shovel.
That would be the epic loot then. That's the purple drop. Yes, you dropped the shovel. I need it.
Yeah, it's a good game. I recommend it if people want to look it up. It's called Don't Starve. This week I also went to shows. I went to the Paper Street put on it. I guess it's done now. The first run of the season is done. It was based on the works of David Mamet, who is like a movie maker and a playwright. And the only one I remember Wag the Dog, but I don't remember. Oh, Glengarry Glen Ross. Are you familiar at all with David Mamet?
I have yet to watch a full one of his movies, but that's mostly due to circumstance.
Yeah, okay.
I am sad to say. I got a lot of movies to work through, too, so it's kind of hard to come back to some of them.
Yeah, it's got a distinct style, which I think is why they picked it for their improv. Now, have I explained this? It's improv. It's a long form, so it's an evening of, I think it's 90-minute players, or maybe...
Oh, not bad.
Yeah, something like that. And it's all improvised, but it is based on this guy's work, so it's his distinctive style. They adapt, and there's some rapid-fire dialogue, a lot of sort of repeating. They repeat back to each other.
They repeat back what they're saying?
Yes. That's what they do.
That's what they do. Okay, I got it. Boy, did I break your train of thought there. Woo.
Yes. But I was going to say, it was a lot of fun, and I was going to try and remember what the plot of the play.
Busted your brain by repeating what you said.
Yes, you did. They came up, each is improvised, so they have to come up with a brand new plot. So the first show that I saw was they were a trust company or trust fund management company.
Ooh.
But they were like, the main characters are sort of middle management, so they're like working in they have some
quasi-trust.
So they're in like quasi-trust. They're in an office setting, and it's sort of supposed to be very drab, very plain, it could be anybody's office, which is why I wanted to talk about offices this week, which we will get to.
Yeah, that's a pin in that one. We'll come back to that in a minute.
Yeah. And so they were a trust company, and then they started off the play with saying, "Oh yeah, Holly from downstairs wants this or that," or I struck out with Holly from downstairs, and then it's funny because in an improv, like, it seems like it's going a certain direction, but then Holly from downstairs, one of the other improvisers, came in and was Holly from the downstairs, and then she like added to the story, like this improvisers do, that she was actually a superior, and she wanted to sleep with our main character, who we saw at first, in order, like, because she wanted to, because I guess it was a power move or whatever.
Gotta jump on that.
And she was going to make his bad performance go away so that he wouldn't get fired. And then from that...
Well, if he's given such bad performance, why does she want to sleep with him?
His bad business performance.
Okay.
They kept talking about his numbers, like, your numbers are down. I can make those numbers go away and stuff like that. So, it's, that's the whole...
Wait, isn't that the lowest of your numbers? If your numbers are so low, they've gone away?
I guess, yeah. I don't know.
I'm so confused. Maybe that's why I don't work in an office.
I think the idea is you're not supposed to ask questions because they just throw these things back. I think the other thing about improv is the actors themselves probably don't really understand. It's a bit like Geordie LaForge and his technobabble. They just throw out these words about, your numbers are going down. Well, I can make those go away. And they just throw them back and forth, not really knowing what they're talking about. But
so what if they tried to adapt the technobabble on that? Your numbers are going pretty low. We're going to have to compensate with some anti-numbers in here, and then the anti-number collision will help us out and boost us up into the next warp.
That would be awesome. I don't think they do that because they're trying to stick to that David Mamet theme, but they have done, like, the Paper Street Theater has done sci-fi and an improvised sci-fi show, which they do exactly that. They do technobabble that they just make up on the spot, and then they work as if that's really true, and they believe it. So it's kind of cool.
So I guess you could have like anti-numbers as being like, what's the like the root, square root of -1 sort of thing.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, that's the imaginary
need more square
number.
Roots. Yeah. You need your numbers and imaginary numbers. We've got an overflux of 11 over here.
Yeah. And then Friday's show, they were a pharmaceutical company, and the product they were manufacturing was Bibelline, I think it was called.
To help grease your Bible so the pages flow smoother.
You know what? I don't remember what the actual effects of but we didn't actually find out. It's funny about improv is you don't even, because they do all this banter back and forth like that barely makes any sense, and they're talking about like, where's the coffee, or I'm going to make some coffee, where's the cups, and like little things just sort of sidetrack them, and then they talk about like, what's happening at home, or
isn't that how Kevin Smith basically built his career?
Yeah, it's
sidetracking his conversations.
It's a little Kevin Smithy too, to be honest. Yeah, that's true. It's conversational. It's just people they look like they're real people, sort of working at a work job.
You would not believe some of the areas we've gotten to at work based on where we started.
Yeah,
you would not predict that.
And that so I don't think we didn't find out it was Bibelline until the second half. So the whole first half was like, I guess they're just working in an office. They're doing office stuff. And the second half we find out, it's Bibelline, that's their product. Someone had sold it to a competitor. And then it turns out that Bibelline is very flammable, so they were going to get in trouble. So
so you get your book burning going.
Yeah. And
so
then
you burn the Bibles, you got to pour a lot of Bibelline on it.
Well, they didn't get to that, but they did. They poured the Bibline all around the office, and then that was the finale. They just lit an imaginary, an improvised match, and threw it. And
we do not advocate igniting your Bibline in any volume back at home.
And they burned down their whole office. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, that was Paper Street, and they're gonna. I'm not sure when the next one is, but if you're in Victoria, it's a cool thing to check out. Is look up,
check out our arts and culture scene, man. Come on.
Yeah.
That's kind of why people go to Victoria, for our arts.
That's true, and it's like Paper Street is a small thing. Like it's sort of it's not our biggest, but it's something that's really cool, and something I like.
Some of the best stuff is never the biggest stuff because you got to find it yourself. You got to work for it.
Yeah, it's very intimate. And yeah, that was my week. And I did some comedy shows too. Or I got on an open mic on Friday evening also, which was fun.
Oh,
but
congratulations.
Got to tell some jokes. I don't know if that counts as simulations, but yeah, they're kind of like stories, I guess. So.
I don't know. Did you simulate a joke or did you try and tell the real stuff?
Well, they were real jokes.
Then it can't be a simulation.
I got some laughs.
There you go. Were they real laughs or was someone simulating a laugh?
I think there was some fake laughs, but I think most of the laughs were real.
Oh, okay, there we go. I won't lie. I mean, it seems like half the time my daughter laughs is a fake laugh, but she's trying to do it for a scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can tell the difference. I can tell when those belly laughs are real laughs. I think.
Oh, yeah, that was me. That was what I did this week. Yeah, a bunch of stuff. What did you do this week? I know you watched a lot of TV.
Oh, yes. I think the best of the TV I watched this week was a 1927 classic, Metropolis.
Metropolis, the film from 1920. Yes. What people say is the first sci-fi film.
Yes.
Ever.
Very interesting. It was artistic without being pretentious.
Oh, yeah?
Which is not something you see very much in any sort of movie these days, along those lines. It's a rather weird seeing the difference in like the makeup styles, because all the guys looked like they'd been powdered white with really dark lips. And it's like, is that on purpose, or is that just how things show up on the stuff there? I don't really know.
Might have been on purpose because they needed a higher contrast, if they're showing the film in a well-lit area. Like if it's not...
Yeah. I guess I'll never truly know the answer on that one unless I delve deep into art schools and all that sort of thing. But that was a little weird, but it worked out. The evil robot was very interesting because I mean, if I was to say evil robot to you, Josh, what comes into your mind? What are you imagining right now when I say there was an evil robot in this film?
Well, Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I don't think that would have been in my head before Terminator came out.
All right. Well, what other sort of evil robot can you picture?
Bender from Futurama.
Okay.
Or the evil, what's his evil twin, or his good twin? Flexo.
Because in this one here, I guess spoiler, the movie's been out for almost 100 years. No spoiler alerts on this one, okay?
The Daleks are evil robots.
Yes, they're a good example. In this one here, though, the robot was programmed to try and cause dissent amongst the lower class people.
Okay.
And cause them to try and revolt and all that. And so, it's not a talky film sort of thing. It's a quiet, silent film. And so you have to portray the evil sort of thing. And the actress who, the robot was taking the effect of, like, skin and body, not, like, literally ripping it off, but, assuming the form of, I guess it was their preacher. The lady who was preaching, like, oh, there will be, a day come and, things will be better, and there'll be a mediator for everyone so that, like, the higher up can talk to the lower person and everyone can get what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was taking her form to cause dissent. It's like, now that you guys are listening to me, burn the rich, sort of thing. And how do you portray that sort of evil robot when you can't speak? And so she was doing, like, really weird stuff, like exaggerated head moves, and it was really very operatic style, as I guess the nice way of saying, like, to show like an evil person, like a Snidely Whiplash with the exaggerated features and like rolling that mustache.
She's almost dancing
basically, yes, dancing, looking around, and the Homer Simpson thing, like, you can tell that dog is evil because he's got shifty eyes. It wasn't just the eyes shifting; it was like the entire head back and forth as the arms go and swinging like some sort of dance move going on there. It was very not what I would have done for what an evil robot would have acted like. but that's okay because it wasn't my movie, and I'm watching what they're doing. It's like, oh, it's a very interesting way to make an evil robot act. Dig it. It had very interesting amounts of like Christian, symbolism going on in there.
Mm-hmm.
I was supposed to, I think, be sympathetic and rally with the side of the poor working underclass. They were working on a metric clock there, by the way, so I guess a 10-hour shift was actually 12 hours long for us. But yeah, you got 2 shifts a day in there, like one, day shift, night shift sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonderful city, Metropolis, and there's great heights, but there's an equally low lows, and that's where the people who like work everything go.
Oh, yeah, cool.
And so it shows a thing where the gates open up on the one side and there are people all trudging in uniform. I don't know how they managed to make sure everyone was going left foot, right foot all at the same time. Because Lord knows I see enough movies nowadays where they can't get that with their extras, but they got everyone in unison there. So good on you, man. Good on you for being able to have that happen.
Well, I've seen parades where, sort of military type of people.
But that's the thing. These were not military folks. I'm pretty certain these were not
extras.
all a bunch of... Yeah, these were all just a bunch of extras for a German film. And they managed to get everyone marching and using... Well, maybe, I guess, because it was a German film? Something about German, Clockwork Star style? I don't know.
Wait, this was a German film from the 20s?
I believe it was German, yes.
Interesting.
So yes, and so like the one gate opens up and they all come trudging out in unison, all tired from a 12-hour day shift. And some people come trudging in sort of thing. And I'm like, one... I see a lot of jobs there. Now, maybe this is the world I'm living in, but I don't see something bad when you've got this many people going to work for dedicated 10 metric hours a day. And I've seen some of the stuff they were doing. It was like, oh, yeah, we adjust knobs on a machine. Occasionally, like if something goes wrong, the machine might blow up. But, like if everyone's doing their job, it's not going to blow up. It's all good.
Yeah.
And then you got stuff where, it's like one guy had to, like, move. It was like... 3 hands on like a sort of clock thing, and whenever lights lit up on the outside, you got to move one of your hands on the clock thing over to point to it, and apparently that stopped it and made sure like flow regulation or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Something very easily mechanized as time goes on, but he's doing that for 10 hours, 10 metric hours, so I guess 12-hour hours. And it's like, oh, that doesn't really seem like a bad job. I mean, I get a little hungry, after about 12 hours of doing that, but I could do that job. I'd do that job well.
Yeah, but are they getting paid 30 cents an hour or something?
So that's the thing. It's just suddenly occurs to me, like, the only thing that's absolutely horrible for them is, one, they're living underground, but still pretty good accommodations,
all right,
from what I saw. And two, like, I guess they weren't making a decent amount of money. But so all you have to do is make sure you pay your workers well. And Lord knows the rich people were living a wonderful life of like the Eloy sort of thing, where, oh no, I don't even know about concerns and worry.
Was this before or after the Time Machine, H.G. Wells?
I believe it was only slightly after. So the themes would likely have had a similar origin.
Yeah.
Although the calling like the workers, the Morlocks, and the people at the higher up Eloy would have been, I guess, rather shoehorning at that point. It hasn't taken its cultural essence that it does now.
And this was before War of the Worlds went on the radio, too.
Yes, yes. But so I'm looking at that, and I'm supposed to like sympathize with them. But one, I see a high, employment thing. So it's like, well, geez, your unemployment rate looks pretty low to me. Everyone seems to have a job. That's not bad. Yeah. And two, when these people do get incited by the robot into like trying to like destroy the rich and blow up the machines and all that. It gets pointed out that, one, this machine keeps the underground from flooding. The underground, the spot where you guys live? Maybe you should blow up this machine. And they blow that machine up. But here's the added kicker. When they blow up that machine, they don't remember that they've left all their kids down alone with no parental control in the underground.
Oh, boy.
Now, maybe it was a bit of a different age where you let kids run around in the streets sort of thing back then. I don't know. I have to double check on this sort of thing.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for the protagonist and the actual lady who, the robot is, taking her form, if it wasn't for those two, all the workers' kids would have drowned, and they would have like, oh no, we lost our kids. Oh, geez, like, I guess, yeah, that's right. When it does get pointed out to them, your kids are all drowned now. They're not drowned. There's like ways up to the surface. They managed to get out. But the parents don't know that, and like, oh no, who's to blame? And no one thinks of blaming themselves for destroying the machine they destroyed.
Right.
They try and blame the lady who told them to do it. And so, yeah, it's one of those mistaken identities. Instead of going after the robot lady, they wind up going after the regular lady. So it's like, oh no, why are you all chasing me? Why are you going to try and burn me at the stake and all that fun stuff like that?
Because she looks like the robot lady?
The robot looks like her.
Okay.
And has incited them into riots. At the behest of the guy who effectively runs the Metropolis because he wants to utilize force. The reasons were a little unclear as to why he wanted to try and get his underclass to revolt against him. But that might be because apparently about 25% of the movie is being considered lost to all time.
Okay, so you only got 75% of the movie.
It was a long movie, man. I was awake at 2 a.m. finishing this thing off, so I guess maybe it was okay.
Is it based on a novel, or it's just its own thing?
Guy just had a really cool idea.
Okay.
Had the artistic merits to pull it off. It all worked out. I recommend it. It's a great one. It's definitely not just one of the great ones, but it's definitely a great movie.
Well, that's a relief, knowing that. I mean, I don't know. Yeah,
sometimes
knowing that the first
classics get a little overhyped, sort of thing. It's like, no, this one kind of died. I was able to, sit up, and watch the entire movie. I didn't catch myself. Oh, it's 2 a.m. I'm getting a little tired here. No, it's like okay. No, it goes on. The silent movies are a little hard to or just step right into because we're used to all these actions and people talking in different voices. Whereas in this case, they're mimicking the voice and all that. And I guess like if you can read German and read lips, you can understand what they're saying.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's like in this case, it's like I think I understand what he's saying, and so I have to in my head say, "Oh, but Father, why do you do this?" It's like, no, is that how he would really sound? Like, am I getting his voice right? The message was very big and clear. It wasn't just like, oh, you have to interpret the message. At the very end, it says, it says in the beginning and then at the end, the mediator between the head and the hands has to be the heart.
Oh, interesting.
And which, it's a very good one. And sort of thing, it tells like the Tower of Babel. I mean, that's what the guy's, his big tower is called. The center of Metropolis is the Tower of Babel.
Oh, okay.
So talk about your thick symbolism there, buddy. Woo.
Yeah.
But it was like, telling about like how you have like the head, the higher ups, the CEOs, the executives, and the hands, the workers, and then without the coordination between the two, they're going to wind up destroying each other. And so you need the heart, which winds up being the effective. I don't know if I want to call him a CEO. He's effectively like the king of the place, right?
Right.
He's the high guy there. His son winds up becoming the mediator, the one prophesied by the lady as the two fall in love, because he has deep levels of sympathy and all that sort of thing. And he considers all men to be his brother. He actually changes places. He does like a Prince and a Pauper thing with a guy, and he winds up taking a shift doing that weird, crazy clock thing for 10 metric hours. It's like, dude, you gave a guy with a lot of money in your pocket to your outfit, and you took his job in the, like, effectively sweatshop sort of conditions. Oh, my goodness. What sympathy you must have for your fellow man. So he really sold, like, his, like, I care about all men. They're all... Well, it's the thing, at the beginning of the movie, he's showing like a bunch of poor kids. They come in to look at those wonderful garden of crazy, I get to do whatever I want sort of delights. Not sexual, just crazy. Ooh, we get to play around like crazy kids. Okay. And then he gets so sympathized, he wants to go and see the poor men. He wants to see the men and women who raise those who he calls his brothers and sisters. So it's like, dude, you are rocking the hippie vibe in 1927. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it had another classic opera sort of thing in that it wasn't just like a prologue. Although there was a prologue. I'm like, what? This is like a third of the way through the movie. That's all the prologue? Yeah. My goodness. And then another third of the way through is like intermezzo. And it's like, oh, okay, that's the intermediate. And then there was a furioso. And it's like, wow, man, I kind of like how they've delineated their acts and they're telling me which act I'm going into here. This is good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. It makes it feel like a real historical experience. And
it really does, give extra leeway for their operatic style and why the crazy, evil robot is like almost dancingly evil. It's like, oh, okay, that's because it's operatic sort of style. I can dig that. Okay. So yeah, if you guys can find it, I recommend it. It's the best silent film I've seen since Nosferatu.
Okay. Cool.
Although I will note, when I saw Nosferatu, it had Type O negative playing over it in the background, so a bit of a different style there. But this one worked, and they tried to explain what was happening in the missing pieces that have been effectively lost to time.
Now, this was on your channel.
No!
Oh, no, you rented it.
I rented this one from the local library.
So,
if you're in the Victoria area, you can always try and book it and make sure it's there waiting for you when you want it.
Yeah, or probably other libraries might have it. I mean, it doesn't hurt to check.
Oh, definitely. Especially if you're in a big city. They've got a very good selection in a lot of spots. And many places have networks. I remember when I was young, being able to request a book all the way from the other side of the province, to be pulled in so that I could check it out at no cost to myself unless I returned it late.
Although I was just thinking, like, from where you grew up, pretty much everywhere else in the province was the other side of the province.
Well, yeah, that's why effectively every couple of years we get people asking, like, hey, maybe we should become part of Alberta. It's a lot easier to make it to Calgary and Edmonton than it is to Victoria. So, I won't begrudge that point. Every other point they have doesn't make sense on it. But yeah, we were in the middle of nowhere, so it was like, order from the other side of the province and bring it on over next time you guys are sending a bookmobile this way.
Yeah.
So yeah, the libraries are really cool that way. I think everyone should support them in that. So take your stuff home, and watch it, and then return it late so you can pay your late fees to help them out with money.
I still owe the library some late fees.
Oh, in that case, you might be in luck because right now they're doing a food for fines.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for the food donation stuff. Go to the website and check it out. See how much money you'll have to donate versus how much food you'd have to donate.
Okay, yeah, that could work.
All the people out there, I mean, if you are in Canada or anywhere, check out to see what your local library is doing on that sort of thing. Sometimes they have amnesty. Sometimes they're trying to help out the needy because they are really good people over there. See what's going on. Get involved with that. So, Josh, I recommend you finding out how much your siblings owe, how much your parents might owe, and maybe everyone just goes and finds a whole bunch of food to donate to a local charity drive and get rid of your fines.
Yeah. Well, I think my mom recently... She got it because the other thing that happened recently is our Victoria Library emailed pretty much everybody.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Somebody
whatever.
Hit the wrong button, said, hey, you could be going to, fines and collections if you owe more than $25. And that's for people that owe, 15 cents got the things. Like, whoa.
Yeah, so I think my mom basically, I don't think she had any fines, but talked to them or whatever she had to do. So.
They did get a lot of responses on that one. So I guess long story short on that, they made an honestly innocent mistake. Something went out to everyone when it should have gone on a more selective basis. And it wasn't even supposed to go to anyone in the first place. Someone hit the wrong buttons there.
Yeah.
And the second point to take away from that is the library is a better friend than you probably have or deserve. If they're asking you for some money, you should give them some money.
I suppose, yeah, that's true.
So yeah, that was my big thing. I do want to put in a plug, I suppose, because this upcoming Saturday, over on the Membrel Entertainment Network, which is a coast-to-coast thing, so no matter where you are in North America, as long as you got basic cable, I think you're getting one version of MeTV.
Okay.
The host, Sven Gulli, is playing the classic Dracula, starring Bela Lugosi. This is a movie to watch. If you are a fan of classic movies, you're a fan of horror movies, you're a fan of just seeing black and white stuff, it doesn't matter. This is a movie worth watching. I've seen it before. I'm going to watch it again. I may even make sure to make popcorn. I don't care if I can't hear Kirk and Spock because over the sound of the popcorn I'm making, I want to make sure that popcorn is ready by the time Sven Gulli starts. So yeah, that's my recommendation for anyone in North America this next Saturday. Check your local listings. I know over here on the West Coast it's from 10 to midnight he plays, whereas over on the East Coast I believe it's a 4-hour difference, so it could be early in the afternoon for you.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds cool. Speaking of plugs, can I also... put in a plug there, Josh.
We
have Roll for Initiative coming up this week.
That's right.
Is... It's almost like a mini convention, I guess.
Mini gaming con.
Sometimes it's only 10 people there, but we're planning on growing it and I'm trying to get more involved in it and do stuff like that. So it is in Victoria at the Lifetime Networks next Saturday, this upcoming Saturday. And
they're doing a little earlier this month.
Did you get that? Yeah, they're doing it. I think it starts at 1:00 in the afternoon, so it's an afternoon thing.
Yeah.
So Roll for Initiative, come on down. It's $10 if you're a player. I believe it's free if you're a DM, or it might be like $1 or something like that.
They need to rent the space. It's just not free.
Yeah, they're just covering the room and stuff.
Until they get that room written into a will, then have the person, who's of the will dies. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that's happening, and IFCon is happening at the end of
October 31st to November 1st.
2 weeks from yesterday, or
Yeah.
End of the month. Oh, and also coming up in November is NaNoWriMo.
Yes, that's right. I'm trying to get so much stuff done and off my plate so I can put that one onto my plate, but it's like trying to eat from a very, very large smorgasbord.
My plan, I'm sort of starting to formulate a plan for NaNoWriMo. I want to do it. I don't think I'm going to shoot for the whole 50,000 words, but what I am going to try and do is just set a time limit of an hour a day of writing. And if I get 1,000 words done an hour a day, then that will get me to 50, or 1667 words in an hour in a day will get you to 50,000 words in the month. So I'm shooting for just an hour of writing and whatever I can get done in that.
And that's not just including your planning and plotting and all that. That's just pure writing.
Well, this is the other thing is I have an idea. I guess I'll spill the beans on the idea because it's not,
or at least the premise.
Yeah, the premise of it. I want to do like a dark fairyland of animals where it's like an animal mafia. And like the animals talk and stuff, but they're all like badass animals, and they're all like the Sopranos kind of deal. Animals. I mean, I know that sounds silly, but it's going to be silly. And I don't want to go in with a plot in mind. I'm just going to write like stories.
There's your
as they
premise,
come to me.
and then see how things boil up.
Yeah, so it might not even be a novel. It might just be a series of little scenes or short stories or whatever. But
that could also work as a concept. I mean, no one says that a novel has to be this way. Sometimes a series of short stories work as a greater novel whole.
So I'm hoping. I mean, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and I will have at least accomplished something and got something.
Yeah, I am really trying to sit down and figure out how everything's going to wind up going for my planned novel.
Yeah. Now your plan is to actually have an outline, or
by the time that November rolls around, yes, to have at least okay, here's where I want to put this stuff happening here. This thing I want to get mentioned in this point, and I want to make sure everything gets sorted out. I want to organize my deck of cards, so to speak.
Okay, yeah, cool.
But that said, I mean, I got so much. I mean, I watched a Bob Hope movie this last week.
Mm-hmm.
The Cat and the Canary. Turns out I dig Bob Hope. Dude's a good actor. He wears a suit very nicely. I mean,
okay.
I watched a lot of these old
skill
movies.
To have.
Well, I've seen people wearing these old movies, suits, and everyone used to wear a suit. All guys wore a suit wherever they were, unless they were like the gardener. Bam, wearing a suit. And it's like, Bob Hope really knew how to wear a suit and look sharp in it. I dig it, Bob. I'd never watched a Bob Hope movie before. I'd seen him do bits from the USO shows, and a lot of people doing imitations of him. Mm-hmm. He's a good actor, as it turns out. He's got a good, clear voice, which he should, given that he started out in radio.
Yeah.
But he wound up portraying a man who was fairly, cowardly. But he didn't wind up overplaying it so that he was such dude, you bring nothing to the table. You were only a hindrance. It's no. He was afraid, but he still wound up I will do this to help you out, sort of thing. I won't leave you here alone. Sort of that mentality. And that wound up really playing well for him and I guess his character. The only bad side to it, I believe, is that it heavily implied he wound up marrying his cousin.
Like the actor or the
character he was playing? Yeah, it was that the premise was man has died 10 years ago, and now his will is finally being read, because that's what it says for his will, is wait 10 years, then read off the will to the people, this members of the family. And he believes a streak of insanity has run through the family, so anybody that is the primary heir, if they do not survive 30 days, sane or alive at all, there's a second half of the will, I'll open it up then.
Okay.
And it winds up being an issue there where it's, the one beautiful young lady gets, declared as being the sole inheritor because she's, by virtue of having the right last name in this case. But everyone else is related there. So, oh, hi, Aunt Tilly, hi, this, and yeah, it winds up being that Bob Hope's character marries, or is implied to, start a relationship up with, not first cousin, but I believe it's second cousin twice removed or something like that. So still a little creepy for me.
Is it? Okay.
I mean, it's completely legal and all that, but still, it's like, dude, maybe you should be looking elsewhere, sort of thing. But yeah, it was all well done. All good actors all the way through out there. This was, however, Bob Hope before he did his Road 2 series. So yeah, Bing Crosby and Bob Hope did a series like Road to This, Road to That.
Okay.
Stewie and Brian in the Family Guy series are doing a lot of mimicking on that sort of thing. It plays well for them. Played well for Crosby and Hope, and turns out you don't need Crosby to make Bob Hope a good actor. It still works out well. So there's that. So I recommend that. So I enjoyed a lot of good movies. But because all these movies I wound up watching, I didn't get a lot of chance to do Minecraft this week.
Oh, no.
Well, it took me a while to... I decided to put in all the mods I'd wind up needing and see which ones I'm going for, which ones I'm not. Okay, need to update Forge, should do this, to go over that, on that. And so I wound up spending almost an entire night just making sure I could play the game again.
Okay, and then you didn't play it.
I did want playing a little bit, and then I wound up just chopping a lot of the end to get resources. Because I got the Chisel 2 mod, so I can make lots of fun shapes and designs going on now.
Okay, so you have lots of blocks. That's good.
I got blocks and blocks by the boatload. It's just wonderfully overbuilt on this stuff. But still so far left to go. And that's the thing is, I wanted to try and get somewhere on this to say I did it. By the time I'm going to have to set aside to make sure I'm doing all my writing for NaNoWriMo, but it's like I might just have to cut it cold turkey for the next little bit to make certain it's happening. Because I got family coming in towards the end of the month. It's like I got a very short build order on this, unless my brother Jason wants to watch me play Minecraft for so many hours. But enough about the movies I watched this week here. I actually want to say again to that pin we put in earlier on there. You were talking about The Office.
So how can we seg into this? I wanted to talk about The Office as a
backdrop.
Yeah.
Because I saw a lot of movies, and futuristic city as a backdrop had offices.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of thing. Had machinery areas, but there was actually offices even back in 1927. There was offices and all that sort of thing. Effectively in the background for this. It was a Louisiana swamp thing. Everyone was stuck on the place because that's just like out in the middle of nowhere. Sort of the bayou. That's how you get the sense of isolation in The Cat and the Canary. It's like, oh no, the closest phone is 20 miles away, sort of thing like that. But yeah, there was still this office here where the guy did his work and all that sort of thing there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you were mentioning offices as like a background, and you weren't even able to tell what was going on for what the office was like until the second half of the one act, where it was like the Bibolium.
Bibeline?
Bibeline, that's right.
Which
maybe
is the name someone
maybe she's born with it, maybe it's Bibeline. But yeah, I mean, which is interesting, because as soon as you mentioned that, I thought to Dilbert.
Yeah, Dilbert's a good office example. Yeah.
And here's the thing, it's like, I think we've all seen the concept of what it's like to work at an office. There have been times I've had to ask, it's like, what do you do in an office? What is an office job? How do I get an office? These jobs look really cushy. I can do whatever these guys are doing. Mm-hmm. I want my office job. I want this cushy 9-to-5 sort of thing.
Yeah.
Give me.
Well, yeah, and then people complain about how soul-crushing it is. Because, I mean, I'm sure it is.
Oh no, my soul is crushed, but my wallet is fat from this 40-hour work week. Oh. And I'm getting health care and dental. Oh no, my unholy soul is crushed. But look at these teeth. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I can stand my soul being crushed. I'll leave my soul at home when I go to the office, and then I'll pick it up when I come back. How's that sound?
Well, it has occurred to me before that the office in some cases is somebody's dream. Like, maybe sometimes it's an owner, sometimes they don't care about it. But oftentimes it's like, a business owner is like, well, I buy all this furniture and like arrange these computers and like get employees in there and like get something moving and going.
And I shall separate them with false little fake walls, and we should call it a cubicle.
Yeah, but that's like somebody is trying to accomplish something by putting, and like the other thing is like our favorite companies like Google and are like even TV shows. They
Not Bing unless they start giving us money.
They have a good portion of their company is in offices. That's where they physically are located to work. And I guess nowadays, like in the last 40 years we've had computers in offices. I don't know.
It's really become a big thing to have
that's-
it all cubicked up.
Maybe that's a longer period, but yeah, it's been a long. Yeah,
Well, it hasn't been everywhere in the last 40 years, but it has, been in the places here and then. I mean, that's the reason why we had the Y2K problems. We had 30-year-old machines that, where it cost so much to buy each individual byte. You weren't supposed to have a 4-digit, like a year. It's just like 19 and then these two rotating things. And that's what caused the issue with Y2K. It was the computers would tick over, and because they decided, like, oh, dude, we got to save space, instead of having a ticking 4-digit number, it's just 19 and then 2 ticking digits. Instead of becoming the year 2000, it became 1900.
Yeah. Oh, and that actually
Crazy.
reminds me of a little tangent I'll take if I can.
Sure.
People, we sometimes complain about how, like, people are immersed in their phones when they're, like, sort of. Otherwise, they could be looking around. They might be sitting on a bench and they're just staring into their phone.
I've looked around. Maybe the phone is more interesting.
Well, I was thinking about that because when you see a person staring at their phone, that looks to the person looking at the person. That looks very boring. That looks very like
it's not a spectator.
They're
sport.
not engaged at all. Like they're just lost in their phone. They're a zombie, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, what is happening in the phone is like a world unto itself. So it's kind of like you're dreaming, and you're only like if you see a person asleep, you don't see them dreaming, but they could be having this most amazing dream, and you're like, they're just sleeping there.
Yeah,
they're just laying there.
You're not having a fun time. You're unconscious. There's nothing going on there. You never went to these weird worlds.
So that's my tangent is saying we should give people a little bit of slack for being stuck to their phones because there's an entire universe inside a phone.
Or at least a connection to the internet world.
Yeah, but it's a little bit like the Matrix too, where all these people are just plugged into these, they're in a pod and they're basically completely still and inert, but in their brain they're like living this world, which is, the world inside the Matrix is not that much to write home about, but...
Well, it was designed to be not that much to write home about, as it turns out.
But in theory, you could be having all kinds of crazy adventures and stuff.
Someone's got to be, running a CEO corporation there, and you can bet there's a Richard Branson type guy having a lot of fun. His life must have just been absolutely shattered when the Matrix thing happened.
Yeah.
No, who's thinking about the 1% in the virtual world? What's going on with this guy? Or, alternatively, it never was any actual humans. It was all computers running it. Just different, like, Smiths and agents like that running the whole thing. No actual human had any real position of power in the Matrix.
Yeah, so it's funny, to tie it back to the office, the aesthetics of an office setting of, like, cheap furniture and, like, coffee and people in suits or
not good
ties.
coffee either, but yeah.
Yeah, kind of gross coffee and that sort of
cheap
office environment.
Ties.
It's sort of, it doesn't really show the workings of, what companies actually sort of do, which is a little bit more mysterious. I don't know if you can get that in
I think it's a little bit much more
movie.
Personalized, too. Like a cubicle for one area is not going to be the same as a cubicle for another.
That's true. Yeah, there are little differences, yeah.
And sometimes it varies in and amongst that. For the Drew Carey show, when it wasn't, at his home, it was at his office.
Yeah, a lot of sitcoms, well, The Office is in an office.
But yeah, with the Drew Carey show, the office wound up being where he's just doing, what was it? He was like the junior guy for, I guess, like payroll and H&R stuff, right?
HR, yeah, human resources and payroll. Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember.
He was in charge of hiring and all that sort of thing, and that's how he wound up making an enemy with Mimi. She applied for like a job in the cosmetics counter with her heavy makeup, and he wound up like just ripped up the resume as he's pretending to cough. And thus they were enemies forevermore.
Yeah. I
guess that qualifies as him as human resources if he's doing the hiring.
Yeah.
Middle management sort of thing.
Something like that. Yeah, and we see a lot of that in the office. It's a lot of sort of, you don't see what they're doing sort of, and the office they sell paper in the office, but you don't see a lot of that paper sales. Instead you see the interaction with the people in the office.
Do you think that's unfair to not show the actual work that they have to do there? So they're creating this illusion of a wonderful, all you have to do is wear your little monkey suit and everything is wonderful.
Well, it's funny too. Like I saw on a message board, we were talking about some TV show, and like some commenter, probably a young person, maybe a teenager, I don't know, but was saying, oh no, it was about community college, so it must have been a 19, 20-year-old who had just gone to community college, and they said, man, Community, the TV show, looks so, like, awesome, and they look like they're having so much fun, and I just wish my community college was more like that. But what you don't realize, it also is, like, in a lot of the episodes, some of the characters are not having that good of a time.
No. It's fun for you to watch, but they're clearly not amused by their circumstances.
I mean, sure, sometimes they do. Sometimes they get up to antics or whatever, or they have fun.
We had fun back in university. I remember a lot of fun. I also remember, like, studying for 48 hours straight, falling asleep for 24 hours straight, waking up, going for a quick shower, and then doing my finals, and rocking it. Turns out you can really, really get good memorization after about 16 hours of continuous study.
Well, yeah, if you're studying the same thing kind of the whole time. Yeah.
It was all biology. All biology. It all winds up correlating.
Yeah.
But it is a little weird how they just show it as being a wonderful place. But I suppose that's the fantasy of the TV series and all that.
Yeah, and I think that's part of why, like, what happens with reality TV is you don't even need to sort of make up stories, rather than say, I worked in an office once.
Some reality TV, they do have to make up their own stories. It's not really reality, but yeah.
But it's like, I worked in an office once. I should write a script based on the things that happened between my coworkers. Instead, why not just bring the cameras into that very office and just film that?
Well, I do know of the webcomic Something Positive. Mm-hmm. The guy who's writing it and drawing and all that, his, I guess, stand-in character was doing billing for a like a medical company. So a person would wind up like, oh no, you had a heart attack, and then you got sent to the hospital and you had the huge surgery. But by the way, you weren't covered, so now we have to bill you for in addition to all the stuff we're billing you for the ambulance ride.
Ooh.
It was fairly like there's your soul crushing. You wound up having to just heap bad news on somebody in a bad situation, and he did that for like 4 years, and I guess his standing characters did that for, I guess, an equal amount of time in the comic, because I think they're progressing at about a standard same rate, 1 year is 1 year. And so it wound up being that like he wrote from what he knew, and just such a horrible job, and there was never like he said he could have wrote that forever. Because of the amount of negativity and horribleness there, it would never end. It was like some sort of font of evil. And that was done in a cubicle style there, too. Thankfully, the characters moved on to better and more rewarding stuff, so hooray! So has the writer. He does that for full time now. Mulholland. Sort of thing. Yeah, look up Something Positive. It's a weird, fun little thing. With a lot of negativity in there. Ooh. But yeah, it had the backdrop because it was what the guy knew, and it was something so bad it seemed almost cartoonishly evil for people reading it. Like, I can't believe such a horrible job exists. So how did you come up with that concept? I did that for 4 years.
Now, what if you wanted to do an office like? Is there in the magical medieval world of Dungeons and Dragons? Is there some kind of office equivalent?
Well, I guess the easy answer is because the office is such a generic background, it could be effectively anywhere indoors. The office equivalency for D&D is the dungeon.
Okay, so it's their workplace is the dungeon, right?
You never see them slaying all those kobolds and goblins because that's, like mass murder. But what you do see is them and their personal interactions amongst each other.
Okay, yeah.
Which could make for an interesting webcomic sort of style.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to draw all the... I mean, you wouldn't have to draw... Like, drawing monsters is not fun, but...
Yeah.
It is fun.
But you could simply just do it as... Well, heck, you don't need to make it the adventures. You could make it the monsters in the dungeon on a regular time.
Okay. I think, similar...
I think there's been a few times things done like that.
Yeah, a few one-offs in the many webcomics that we...
I think I remember Dungeons and Denizens being one where that worked. I don't remember how long it lasted. It had a finite run, though. It's not an ongoing series.
Okay. But is there, sort of I'm thinking, a monastery, or this old-fashioned, leather and this sort of dusty library, or stuff like that in an old, drafty castle.
But that doesn't necessarily work well for anyone who's, rogue or fighter-oriented in this case.
Okay.
So it might wind up being something like an adventurer's hall, or some sort of, like a guild of heroes.
All right.
Because guilds were always big in the medieval world, so why not make a guild of heroes sort of thing? Because that's a thing, apparently, people imagine would have happened in a world with fantasy and magic.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, yeah, you'd wind up having, like, your warriors' training background sort of thing, which would be, I guess, the equivalent of, like, a gym they'd have at the place. And then you wind up your alchemical labs, which would be R&D, and you could wind up having equivalencies to the entire thing. So you could just make it like the Adventurers League sort of deal.
Is it important in D&D, like, we seem to always care about the big picture eventually, because stuff happens like the world is threatened or the planes.
I think it's based on the general philosophy of that your characters are heroes, and it pretty much says that through all the iterations I've read. Your characters are heroes, they should act, heroic, but if you want to play evil guys, here you go. Still have them wind up being, like, saving the day and all that.
There's not so much this sort of middle management level of being in that you don't really know what's going on up in the top. You're only concerned about your sort of day to day. That doesn't happen really in D&D so much. But I suppose
lower level
rations and stuff.
Lower level adventures, the sewer, things where you got to go in and like clear out like a guild from the sewers, or rats of unusual size, this sort of thing.
And your employer might be like a cloaked figure that you don't even know who they are. They send you missives through an intermediary or something.
Yeah. Which is interesting, because when you work with other role-playing games, I mean, like, no one really needs to care about what the big order is in Shadowrun.
Yeah.
Dude, you are doing illegal or quasi-illegal activities for money. That's kind of the premise. You are not supposed to be a good guy, although you can have very much heroic traits. And a lot of the stories they present within there is somebody doing something. Although there's a big, larger picture presented throughout all the various Splat books they've released, none of that is required for you to play. That's just their story. You want to work a different story, go for it.
I like that. I like that Shadowrun is a good example of The Office meets D&D.
Your characters are more likely to be in an actual office, albeit firing and shooting people. It's an extraction. You got to bust into this office, kill anyone who opposes you, steal the, we'll say, elite programmer, and make sure he gets extracted to the other mega corporation.
Yeah.
He's willing to go, but you got to get him out first.
Yeah.
So, I mean, however you want to do that, you want to do like a thing from like the Matrix, where Neo needs to sneak out of the office as the agents are coming down the area. It's like, okay, and go across the hall now, and keep ducked down and over now, and there you go, and out. So you could do that if you had hacker enough, or I mean, let's face it, Shadowrun. There's many pages based on books. Many pages in the original and books based for Splat stuff just on weapons and how they deal damage. You could come in riding in there on like an 18-wheeler in through there, crushing everyone underneath you. Anyone who opposes you faces your Panther assault cannon. If that's the way you're doing it, that's the way you're doing it. Why did the game master give you those things to begin with? Oh my God.
Do you remember the scene?
I don't want to play that now. Jeez, you got me in there, Josh.
Well, do you remember the scene in Monty Python where they have like a bank, like a small bank?
Oh yeah, and there's like a merger that winds up doing like with pirates.
And they become pirates, and they put on like eye patches, and they take the paper cutters and turn them into swords and stuff.
I do remember that. That was a magnificent scene.
And he's like, Gertrude, put the kettle on. So I get
stuff like that, and they wind up being able to get their ship, their building to move around like a ship as they go raiding.
Yeah, it's the what do you call it? The drapes that are masking the construction on the building. They make them into sails, and then
a masterful skit, even for Monty Python, masterful.
Yeah, very good, very funny.
So in which case they're doing a satire of it, like something as boring as The Office winds up becoming as exciting as pirates. Arr. In that case, does that mean that by default The Office, at least in the stereotypical stuff, has to be considered as dull as possible?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think that's the stereotype and the perception.
Which is not to say it's the only area where you can do dull. I mean, just look at Brent Butt's comedy series, like Corner Gas. It's a small town, and by default, it's supposed to be really boring there.
It's a town where nothing happens.
Where something happens every week, but nothing ever happens there, right?
Yeah. the least. It's a real challenge to write comedy because it's the least funny town in the world. But
well, I mean, that's the thing is like what stuff happens at the corner gas station there.
Yeah.
You might have a little bit of weird regular customers, interacting with the weirdness of all the main characters, and then you've got, but just the whole cash register area. It's a very dull place, but that's where things happen. People talk, and this is what they say that makes it entertaining. So really, they could be saying that in an office place themselves. Mm-hmm. The office winds up just being like an almost generic background, like a blank, like tarpaulin for your outdoor plays.
Yep.
What you put into it depends on who you are as the audience member then.
Yeah.
If you are the kind of person that winds up doing, say, number crunching, like, oh, I'm an accountant, it's like an accountant's, office space. If you're, most people with the numbers, but if you're doing numbers but not accounting, you're doing with statistics. It might be more with the statistical analysis, and you expect peeking in there and seeing like a big table of numbers, tacked onto the wall there. Mm-hmm. So what about us cubicles?
What's that about people who don't work in?
Yeah, and you and I, we don't work in a cube sort of office space.
Right. I mean, I do.
What do we see when we peek in there?
My interaction with offices is that I'm in and out because I do water delivery.
Right.
So I actually do get to experience offices, but it's like those brief moments when I'm like seeing, oh look, this is how this office is set up, and they have their fridge over here, and they have their bottled water plugged in or not plugged in, or so I get that angle on offices.
Because the only real office stuff I have experience with was when I was helping my dad do janitorial stuff back when I was a youngin'. Mm-hmm. In which case, I'd be in there after everyone was gone. All I'd see is the cubicles themselves. These neat little squares. There's a computer here, and a chair here, and a printer, and some other stuff going on, and a nice little thing for maybe like a potted plant, or some pictures of the family. And, while you're here, you got to make sure that, I guess it was after the smoking era, so there wasn't any cigarette trays to get rid of. But always make sure you dump the garbage, everything gets good, and put it back into place, and everything was nice and neat. So my perspective of the offices is a very well-regulated and disciplined area. Look at all these perfectly squared away areas for unique personal, like activities. Whatever you're being told to do, that's what you're doing. It was a BC Hydro place, so I don't really know. Like, I guess they were doing a lot of billing stuff and checking up on, I don't know, maybe they were answering phone calls. I don't know. I wasn't there when the people were.
Yeah, I've seen some offices that are not quite so neat, but yeah, mostly offices.
I have heard some stuff from people I've spent a lot of time with, just being absolutely irate because their office cubicle wasn't theirs the entire day. They'd come in off someone else, and then someone would replace them, and they were really upset. It's like, I can't do work for the first hour I'm there because I have to clean up after this slob.
Yeah.
So that's not exactly as profound as what I saw when I was in there as a youngin', just peeking in. Ooh, offices. Ooh. So it's like what do you bring in, and so how much is do the people who make like the TV shows think like what is the breakdown for office work? How many people are doing what fields? Like who's gonna imagine what is this stuff goes on here? Or they do them. They're expected to imagine it so generically. It's like, oh yes, there are people in a common area. They're supposed to be doing work, but here's their interactions that are non-work related.
Yeah, well, I think the show The Office, I think they came up with all of the backstory of like what exactly everyone's job was, and how well they were doing it, and whether because sometimes they kind of slack off, and it's like, oh well, yeah, they slack off, but occasionally they work, and for some reason they get by. So well,
it's not the greatest paper company in the world. I mean, that's why they're slacking off sometimes.
Yeah, and then because they have troubles with the boss who was at, what was his name? Michael Scott was the character played by what's his name? I should know this, but anyways.
Are you talking about the British original or the?
Oh, the American
okay.
Office. Yeah. The British one, that was Ricky Gervais playing Brent something.
Just Brent. In which case, so they have that one there as opposed to something like Dilbert, where it's a bunch of engineers, an intern, and pointy-haired boss. Mm-hmm. In which case, that's all they really need to tell their stories about like how things like who's the senior engineer, who's the junior. You got your basic, you got your ASOC, the intern. Then you've got your engineers, which is Alice, Dilbert, and Wally, and then you got your pointy-eared boss, as well as I guess your like occasional bring-ins like this is like a Catbert from HR, or I guess some marketing was coming in every once in a while, sort of stuff. And then you brought in your occasional weird, crazy person just for added jokes, like the guy who's always got to one-up you, or like the guy who speaks really loud Howard. In which case, yeah, they don't need to be a part because their jokes are considered just a little bit separate. They're just like, here's something funny for you. Here's a guy who talks really, really loud. Here's someone from marketing that doesn't understand what you're doing at all. Ha ha ha.
Do office settings contribute more to comedies than action movies or action games?
I think it would have to work through comedy, because all comedy really needs, especially when you think back to stuff like the vaudeville stuff, all you needed was two people up on a stage telling jokes back and forth to each other. Now, instead of like a generic like a velvet curtain behind these two people, just put ties on them and put cubicles. Bam, you got Dilbert.
Because I'm trying to I think action.
In which case, the generic, style of the office space that you've got around there works very good for comedy, because it's just the backdrop that's needed is these people give their funny lines.
Okay. Yeah.
Whereas action, something's got to happen in there. I mean, the Office Space movie stuff happened.
Yeah, and most offices, like action-oriented stuff, doesn't happen too often in.
It happens through there. I remember one spot in the Avengers where there's a spot in an office. The people are all looking out at the crazy space whale that's flying through the air, and look the other way, and they see the Hulk just tearing a straight line through the building at it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that technically was happened in an office, but it was really happening through the office.
It'd be a fun movie if it was just like sort of an Office Space style, like office drama or office comedy, like 45 minutes of just people hanging around an office doing funny stuff, relatively entertaining movie, and then like a superhero just crashes through the building, and then another one follows him, and then the next 45 minutes are just office. Well, that happened, and then just more office stuff. They're not even following the superhero.
It would be a nice Monty Python-esque interlude.
I guess, that would be a sketch more than you couldn't have that for a whole movie because people would not like that.
Well, that's the thing. You could, I suppose, if you want to do a little bit more of a classic style movie, you could have it be the standard sort of office thing with entertaining people doing stuff in an office, and then what you could do is have the superhero bit be the interlude, intermission stuff. Because yes, and once upon a time, movies had an intermission so that you could use the bathroom, restock up on your popcorn, get yourself some more drinks, and then go back in without missing anything. I think the local theater back in my hometown, up until they closed, they still did that. Scared the heck out of the tourists. What's going on? It's intermission? Is that still a thing? So you could wind up doing something like that, and just something so completely out of the blue. So intermission as we clean up after the superhero, battle, and then it comes back up, and then people are just like putting like the last the plants up and moving the file cabinets to place, and then they go back to normal. Could you dig that as a concept?
Well, I don't know if it would work, because people would be like, how come we're not watching the superhero movie that just happened? But,
what if they're able to get like a name brand superhero? Like it's actually like Iron Man goes crashing through, and I'll say the Mandarin is on his heels, sort of thing. Yeah, and then
and then the movie's like put out by Warner Brothers, but it's like, technically this, or not Warner Brothers, the Marvel.
Yeah, be Marvel House sort of thing. Yeah.
It'd be like, technically this movie is now part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe because they, the characters smashed through it.
There you go. You got to connect everyone up somehow, and that's how you get a bunch of people. It's like, well, we don't want to put these guys in for the big name roles, but they're still big enough that we can't ignore them forever. Let's make a cubicle movie for them, and then make sure Iron Man comes ripping through it for the intermission, and that way they're all called for in the Marvel Universe. Quit applying for these other jobs. So I think that could work. It'd have to be a bit of a wacky comedy to make it work, though.
Yeah.
I suppose you could make it like a more of an action suspense thing if you worked it with the internet related. I do recall some scenes in the later part of The Net, the old Sandra Bullock one from like the 1990s. that was really, really bad on understanding how the internet worked. But it was still almost like an espionage. She has to sneak into the building she was technically a worker for, and then download some files. So in which case you could do like a data espionage sort of thing going on through the computer networks there. Or I suppose you could just make it like a super hyperbole, like Y2K, like action disaster. Can we solve it? Can we type it up in time? We got to run down into the data servers. We got to start flipping switches there. Quick hack the internet. It's all the internet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, The Matrix is an action movie that takes place partly in an office. Or is it only open in an office?
It kind of opens in an office. I mean, Neo is just the average, kind of drone who lives a secret hacker life where he makes his real soul's worth of living there.
Yeah.
And when he starts getting caught, it becomes like you got to make your way through the office. It becomes like a labyrinthine maze he has to navigate.
Yeah. So in that case, the office kind of looks a little bit like a dungeon. Yeah.
Yeah, but he never really fought anyone there. It was kind of like a dungeon run as opposed to a dungeon hack and slash.
Yeah. Fight Club. Yeah, it happens partly in an office.
But I think in that case, it's only to try and heighten the dullness of the average person's life. In which case, you get back to the office being a symbolism for dull monotony.
Ghostbusters, the office in Ghostbusters?
There's a lab.
Don't they have kind of a...
They have their offices, but it's really much more of the same sort of firehouse design style.
Yeah.
Which always struck me as weird. I mean, if you're going to be doing a fighter style, you got to have on shift and off shift, and these guys never had off shift. It was just 4 guys working all the time.
Oh yeah.
There was no downtime. It's like, my goodness, no wonder they were starting to burn out. Smoke all the cigarettes you guys want. You've earned the right to smoke up, man. Oh my God, you're working forever.
Do you think if you're an adventurer, your role is a little bit more like on the level of a CEO who maybe might have his own office, but maybe doesn't necessarily deal with things like cubicles and stuff, because you might own those?
I guess that would make sense, because to be the hero, you got to be the person who goes out and does stuff. And if you're the kind of person who goes out and does stuff, you're probably not a cubicle drone.
Yeah, or you might start as a cubicle drone, but yeah, you become something else.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a great apotheosis, from your start to your finish.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And then he wound up with the corner office because he got the big contract.
Yeah, and he got to marry the boss's daughter or whatever.
He didn't marry the boss's daughter, but he's seeing her.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
He's the hero after all. You got to play these things like romantic style, which apparently does not include marriage.
You don't think marriage is romantic?
From the perspective of Hollywood, no. You would have to have something like the romance that starts up and then somehow just never exists in the sequel, so that you can have another romantic lead.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, I've seen enough. I know how the trope goes. It's the Austin Powers sort of style, new lady every movie.
Yeah, well, what about spy offices then? Speaking of Austin Powers, can we talk a little bit about James Bond?
That's a very good thing. James Bond, I'll even go into True Lies on that one.
Okay, yeah.
Because there is a lot of work that needs to be done to determine this intelligence and get that all up, in which case, yeah, you do have people sitting in these offices doing this, super duper confidential, you'll never hear about it, and this never really happened, sort of, like a monitoring network. Still not what the main character does. That's not what the movie's about. It's not about the guy in the office. It's about the guy who goes out and after, okay, we know it's here, you got to do this, and da-da-da-da, you diving in sort of thing, and shoots up a bunch of bad guys, seduces a lady, kills the big bad guy, and then just rocket balloons out. I don't know which movie that was. I just made that up as I went. And I think I may have used an Indiana Jones theme for it. I think Indiana Jones, though, is a very good one to go, because when Indy is not being Indiana Jones, the man of adventure, he is a university professor.
Okay, yeah, so he probably has his own academic office.
Such as it is. From what I recall in the movies, it's kind of a bit of a mess. But then all teachers' offices, from what I recall, are a bit of a mess. Books and papers everywhere. Not always well-bound papers, too. Sometimes a little bit from this, a little bit of a paper from this thing here. And it's like, ugh. There's no system for properly correlating everything. And there's not enough room for any of the teachers. That said, Indy does seem to have much better, like classes. I mean, there was that one lady who put the words "I love you," like on her eyelids to signal him when he's trying to teach.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, whoa, like that is not something you'd see at your average office sort of thing. A young college co-ed hitting on you like that. No, so that's not like a standard office sort of thing, is it?
Well, I imagine it's relatively common in schools and universities and colleges. So
there's still a lot of hormones in with those young late teens, early 20-somethings.
Yeah, I think so. I think it happens.
But so blatantly is writing the words "love you" on your eyelids. So give the words like "I love you" sort of thing, to signal your professor. I don't know, man. That's pretty bold. It's a good scene though in the movie. I won't lie.
Yeah, it's cute.
But yeah, so I guess like the office could also be seen as like where you are when you're not being the hero.
Okay, yeah.
So like when Indiana Jones isn't like beating the crap out of Nazis, all throughout wherever it is he's beating them up, he's at the university teaching the students. Although I do recall, people, they say that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull for it being like the worst of the Indian movies, blah, 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 blah. But here's the thing. It really showed where he's working. It showed like where he's getting his paychecks from. And this respect the students have, and how, sometimes it bleeds on through and he winds up having to drive a motorcycle through the library.
Let me ask you this.
How he got 10 years beyond me. But okay.
What's the best office ever?
A laboratory office.
Okay.
Because I'm a scientist, and that's my natural prerogative.
Okay, so you need some books.
Yeah. Okay, so just like the office cubicle, what would be the best one?
Sure.
In which case, it wouldn't be a cubicle. It'd be like one of those segregated offices where everyone, not necessarily a big one, but where everyone gets their own spot, their own real walls, not this foam padded crud.
Artwork on the walls?
If you want.
Family pictures?
You got to bring your own stuff in.
Yeah.
I'd say a lot of family pictures, more closer to eye level, and if you got space for it, like a painting or two up on there, a window. Oh God, a window.
A window.
Oh,
up
yeah.
A nice high floor location so you can look out on.
Not too high. You want to see the trees, but not the base. You want to see what the tree tops.
Okay, so like overlooking Central Park or something.
I don't know. We went to university to spot that had like Forest for the World out back. If you had a good window in the laboratory building, you would see the Forest for the World out there.
Just forest. Just all forest.
Yeah, so if you've got one of the nice higher up labs, you got to see the top of the forest. If you're like one of the lower labs, you got to see where everyone was driving by and then the bottom of the forest.
Yeah.
So you really wanted one of those higher level labs. In my opinion, you'd have to have at least an adequate view. I prefer trees and all that thing, because it's always nice and peaceful to look out, the trees, just blowing in the breeze. Well, I suppose another person could look out and see, I can see 7 city blocks if I just tilt my head this way. Oh, there it is. Oh, yeah, that's a view.
What about like a Tony Stark kind of, like, because he's got all kinds of, I guess it's his laboratory, really, or workshop even.
His workshop, I won't call his workshop an office by any stretch. That is his playground.
But it's like, to represent an office for him, he just has his computer stuff that's sort of the holographic displays.
Yeah. I can't call that an office. So his office was like his office at work, where Pepper Potts in the first movie had to wind up taking the information from, and she almost gets caught by a stain and all that. So it was a classy office, but it was still not where the hero goes to be a hero. It's someplace he has to go to do whatever it is he's got to do.
But
it's a place for him to try and avoid.
I don't know. Is a great office, is that a suitable reward to sort of for a hero to look for? Because sometimes I guess a hero would be like, yes, I got the corner office at the end of the movie or whatever. That's like, I don't know, is that
Not
exciting?
everybody needs to save the world. Sometimes it's about getting that good, sweet office, man. And a corner office is, from what I've been told, a very sweet thing. Because then you have 2 windows. One looking one way and another looking the other way. So potentially 2 completely different sites.
Yeah, although I think most movies set up that sort of corner office as a false goal or something that the character thinks he wants, but then realizes that he wants something else or bigger. But then
it's a non-cubicle office with 2 windows.
He gets it anyways in the end because he's the hero, but he also wins something more substantial like respect or saving the world or the girl or something else.
Or whatever. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe my standards are so low right now. Like the big goal is getting a corner office somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Or what about not a corner office, but one of those like ones where the building's not exactly on like a 90-degree thing, where you wind up getting like one of those like diamond-shaped offices, where you get a nice big one window on the far side where your door is, so everyone opening up gets to see straight through your wonderful window. Yeah, how's that?
I like that. Yeah.
Of course, mind you, for me, it would wind up being you get that sort of office, and then you go straight out into the laboratory sort of thing. Laminar flow hoods in rows down as far as the eye can see.
That's another thought I had. Like in D&D, you don't ever really compete for. Well, I guess you might compete for contract, but you don't compete for a job or a job title. Like that,
well,
really.
that's the thing is most adventurers qualify under the job title of murder hobo.
Yeah, well, but there can be little jobs in between there. You might
I remember one of your campaigns where my downtime was effectively teaching the royalty of whatever little nation it was we were in there. The concept of the fundamentals of magic. I wasn't actually teaching anyone spells, but it worked out nice during the winter months, so I didn't have to go adventuring out in the snow.
Okay.
So hooray!
Yeah. I guess in
that
D&D,
was my office job.
Jobs tend to just sort of land on, like, D&D jobs. You don't have to go very far before you find somebody who needs something done.
Well, I mean, mind you are a person of truly exceptional abilities. Whether you're the best in like you can do for your pickpocketing and your picking locks versus actually being able to bend the laws of reality around your forearm, or swinging a sword well enough to kill everything that gets in your way. You are not cubicle drone material. You are not the average person. You are the 1%, but not monetary-wise, at least initially. You're 1% for ability and skill. So I'd have to say anything where you start out as like that much a head and shoulders above sort of thing does not lend you well to the office sort of mentality. I think we got just
running out of time. Okay,
but as I was mentioning, is it being like a drab background exterior. What about like the non like D&D dungeon, but actually like a dungeon where people you get thrown into? What is that is the concept of like the like a prison as the background then? For like instead of the office.
Well, prisons have offices. It's funny too because sometimes they get prisoners to do like clerical work.
Yes, at 1/5 the regular wage. Woo, cheap labor.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So they got that movie coming out. I believe it's this next year, The Suicide Squad. In which case, a bunch of otherwise you will never see the freedom, of the daytime sky beating down on you. You are in jail forever. But we can commute a lot of your sentence if you wind up doing this effectively suicidal task for us because you got enough skills. In which case, then you would wind up having the at least the initial start for the dreariness of the prison instead of the cubicle with the high-end amount of skill, and it winds up being that you still wind up going to jail, but you get like the corner office, so you're not like stuck in solitary. You get like a decent cell.
Better cell, yeah. Better prison job. Instead of washing toilets, you're doing taxes or something.
Or I believe Mark Hamill stated it best in The Flash last season. They gave me cable, so I quit killing the guards. In which case, yeah, sometimes it's about those little luxuries you tend to enjoy. As opposed to like, oh boy, now I have TV in my solitary confinement. I got basic cable, baby.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too.
I'm watching Dracula on MeTV next Saturday night. Plug.
You made a connection between the prison and cubicle, and sometimes the cubicle is identified sort of metaphorically as a kind of prison at the beginning.
Yeah, but at least they pay you to go to that prison.
Yeah.
Prisoners usually don't get paid.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
I guess we get paid in smokes, but that's a bit of a different thing.
But like a character can feel sort of trapped, sort of like, I have to go to this job every single day, and then,
Yeah, listen, unless you're independently wealthy, you're going to have to go to some job every day for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I hate it.
It's either one prison or another. Sometimes you get to choose which prison you go to.
Yeah.
You're still doing better than a lot of the prisoners.
Well, yeah, that's true.
They don't get that.
Yeah.
So could you see the concept of like the prison or the dungeon sort of thing, as an equivalency to the concept of the cubicle? It's dreary, it's monotonous, it's confining.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So then what you could have is a syndicated cartoon comic strip where instead of it being like a Dilbert and Wally talking stuff in an office, you could have, like, we'll go with like J-Dog and Shanks talking weird stuff in the prison.
Yeah, you could totally. Isn't the show Orange is the New Black?
I believe there's also fan service in that one. That's not likely to get syndicated in the comic strip format.
Okay.
Although I would love to see them try a comic strip format of Orange is the New Black. That would be just absolutely boss.
All right.
So then I guess we've been able to define down the core concepts of what the cubicle life in the office space is, as it has to be dreary, monotonous, and that everything else has to crop up. So we've discussed before that, especially way back, some of our first iterations here, that comedy is best done, when it's not everything wacky, but there's there's something dark as a contrast.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you get your dark comedies. And horror sometimes works best when it seems like a normal, ordinary thing, and thus things start getting really weird.
I like it, yeah.
So in which case, the comedy that people use is supposed to be heightened by the dreariness of the cubicle backgrounds.
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah.
So they're working it through a contrast and, I guess, like a negative space sort of thing.
Probably, I think so.
That's pretty deep.
Yeah.
So I guess if you want to write a good comedy, it's got to happen in a cubicle or a prison.
Woo! Indeed.
Have they done many TV series where it's like in a prison, but it's a comedy?
Prison comedies? Oh, well,
Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah, my brother's in Hogan's Heroes right now.
That's not exactly prison. That's internment camp.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of sketches, Saturday Night Live every once in a while does a prison sketch. But.
Yeah, I still can't believe they did Hogan's Heroes like a mere 20 years after World War II, and they were able to portray the Nazis as being incompetent, bungling goofs, and it's like everyone's like, dude, I was there. They tried to kill me. How dare you? I'm writing in like a letter campaign. Now, that would not fly now. If you were to do like a comedy series about a bunch of people in Saddam Hussein's dungeons and all that, that would not fly. You would get hate mail, you get threats.
Probably.
Man. It's a different era.
I mean, what's his name? Sacha Baron Cohen did The Dictator, which was a little bit like that.
But that was almost farcical, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, isn't that the idea that Hogan's Heroes was kind of farcical?
Well, I thought they just needed a decent backdrop to be doing sneaky, shenanigans.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I think they could have done a lot better than it's a concentration camp, and thus the people that almost took over Europe were bumbling goofs everywhere.
Yeah, well,
Stalag 13.
Yeah, they were bumbling. I mean, and
some of the outsider Nazis were a little menacing, but like Schultz, and all that, they had no clue what was going on.
And I think that was probably a fairly common thing. I mean, the whole system was pretty. It was that whole office thing where there's bureaucracy and people getting away with stuff and people screwing up. So there was a lot of...
an underground... Is there an underground economy in your average cubicle thing?
Maybe, I don't know.
There's some sort of weird, instead of like printing presses where they're printing fake German money, they've got a thing where there's this he controls all the pens, man. You want yourself some decent new, Bic pens, you gotta go through him.
Yeah. Well, offices do have, supplies. Somebody's in charge of supplies.
But they never call them the quartermaster like they should. I think the job demands the title quartermaster. Come on. It's good. It's good. No one uses it anymore.
Yeah.
But I think that's a pretty good area to wrap it up.
Yeah,
pretty much on time there this time.
Yeah, our social media is send us email at thesimulationist@gmail.com. You can comment on our Facebook page, whatever you want to say. It's open for comments.
We do try and check in at least once a day, sort of thing. So if you put a comment, we will find out within 24 hours.
And we'll have a chat back and forth with you, or whatever it happens to be.
Tete-a-tete.
So Facebook.com/thesimulationist. We're on YouTube also. It's the same show that you're listening to now. Probably on iTunes is where most people listen, but it could be anywhere else. Speaking of iTunes, you can leave reviews, and we'll take reviews happily. Well, I guess we don't really have a choice, do we? I don't think I can delete reviews, but
we will take a suck one because we gotta. But please don't.
Well,
Don't just give a review that says you suck.
Well, okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Tell us why.
Yeah.
Let us know, and we'll do something different so we don't suck.
Love your honest opinions. In fact, we don't. I think I'm pretty certain by now that we're doing
I'd be
well.
okay with your dishonest opinions. If you guys want to shower us with false praise, I'll take it.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll take
Not
it.
all the time. I don't want it to go to my head, but if you guys want to do satire in the form of praise, give it a shot.
Yeah, and we'll take reviews on Stitcher if you get the podcast that way, or if you want to help us out. I think it's thumbs up or something. Like us on Stitcher, subscribe to us, and you can tweet at me at SpaceBoot1 is my Twitter handle.
I have no Twitter
handle. Doesn't have a Twitter handle, but you can tweet at me at SpaceBoot1. And
the only handle I have is when I'm doing my little teapot.
Yeah.
It comes with a spout.
Or yeah, you might run into us on various other web forums, Reddit or the EN world sometimes.
I lurk all over the place.
Yeah.
Say something loud enough, chances are I'll find it eventually.
I think that's about all the social media. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I would like to put out an apology if you do work in a cubicle sort of thing, or you do the office work. We didn't mean to put you down and make you seem depressed for 90 minutes about your job. It's a common trope with a background sort of thing, so we wanted to try and dissect it.
I suppose the other thing is that, they're working away in a cubicle, and then we're just talking about all the things that are around them at the time. They're like, yes, I know, it's a cubicle.
It isn't even my real family. The portrait came with the frame. That's it. I mean, here's the thing. There's no job that's a bad job so long as you enjoy it. Well, I encountered a man earlier on tonight. He played for some of the best bands on earth. He played for Ozzy. He knew James Dio, thanks to family and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And he did that, and he has no regrets about his life. He was loving it. Even though he wound up looking like, I won't lie, the look between a guitar player and a homeless person is sometimes rather hard to tell apart.
Right.
It's like how fresh are your clothes. Other than that, it's rather difficult. But you know what? The guy was doing happy. He was smiling and laughing. He was living a life that people dream about. Sort of thing. Everyone sometimes thinks, could I be a musician? Could I do the song? Could I play the guitar? Could I do the drums? He was doing it. And I gotta say, I was happy doing my job today. Mm-hmm. And not the most glamorous job on the face of the planet. But you know what? We're both happy, and neither of us would have traded places with the other. So long as you're happy in your cubicle office, there's nothing wrong with being in the cubicle. It's right. Where you're supposed to be. It's where you want to be.
Yeah, and I was saying, in some cases, the cubicle is somebody's dream. It might not be your dream, but it's probably your boss's dream.
I would love to get into a cubicle, and I'd be like, I get to sit down for 8 hours, and I get to actually take my break instead of just saying, I guess I'll take my break later and then wait till the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that sounds wonderful.
Right.
I'm jealous of you cubicle workers, man. You got it made. You got seats to sit on.
Yeah, some jobs you have to stand up all day. That's a thing, yeah.
I don't mind it. My feet, however, mind it. Oh, my goodness, do my feet mind standing around 8 hours a day?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe if they gave me a big chair to twirl around on all day, I'd be happier. I know my feet would be. Well.
Right.
In any event, we will see you in 7 days.
That's the end of the podcast. I've been Josh 11.
I've been Ryan Kirkby.